We've all spent hours upon hours working on our biceps, yet most of us aren't happy with the results we're getting. And although most of us are already performing the right exercises, there still seems to be something missing. It's a well-known fact that the more training volume we perform, the bigger our biceps will grow, as volume is directly correlated to hypertrophy. That said, we also have to consider the effectiveness of the reps we're performing. You see, if we can manage to achieve a better mind-muscle connection, then it might be possible to grow our biceps by doing less work. This isn't to say that we should, in fact, decrease volume in order to focus on mind-muscle connection, but rather to point out the power of training a muscle with more intention. Before I get into the 5 exercises for really feeling your biceps, here are 3 tips for improving the mind-muscle connection. Number 1, lose the ego. There's nothing wrong with decreasing the weight in order to have better control. You may be performing less total volume, but the reps become far more effective. Personally, I'd take a weight I can normally perform for the prescribed reps, decrease that by 5 pounds, and then slow down the tempo of each rep, forcing you to place the muscle under tension for a longer period of time. The difference in your ability to feel the muscle will improve greatly. Number 2, tactile feedback. Simply touching the working muscle with your non-working hand, known as tactile stimulation, increases neuroactivity in the area, thus increasing the amount you're working the target muscle. It does so by increasing local awareness as well as motor fiber recruitment in the muscle you're touching. Number 3, variety. There's nothing better than mixing it up with your training. A different stimulus or even changing up the angles of your exercises can help you to feel them a bit more. When you think about it, we all have slightly different origin and insertion points for our muscles. This is known as our morphology. For example, one person who has a short biceps muscle belly and a longer distal biceps tendon may feel something like a preacher curl more than an inclined dumbbell curl, or vice versa. There you have it. 3 simple techniques for a better mind-muscle connection. Implement these strategies to any muscle group and notice a huge difference in your training. Now, let's jump into my personal top 5 arm exercises for really feeling the biceps. Cable curl. First up, we have the straight bar cable curl, which offers the added benefit of a little instability compared to the standard dumbbell variation. This will lead to higher activation in the biceps. It also leads to a much better bar path and resistance profile. The dumbbell curl has little load going through the biceps at the very start and end of the rep, and places most of the tension on the mid-range of the movement. The cable keeps the tension on the biceps constantly and leads to the biceps getting challenged throughout the entirety of the exercise. When performing this exercise, it's important that we keep the elbows fixed throughout the movement and pull in an arc motion towards the body. This is what's going to lead to the highest activation in the biceps. Changing grips also helps to target different areas of the biceps due to the varying levels of supination required. Don't be afraid to mix up the grip width and see which feels the best for you. Hypersupination curl. Next up, we have the hypersupination dumbbell curl, which is fantastic for getting the biceps into a really short position. It's essentially a dumbbell concentration curl with an extra emphasis on supination. This leads to both the short and long head of the biceps getting into a really short position, which is where you'll really feel it burn. This variation also shifts the load onto the long head of the biceps, and so will help us add some mass to those peaks. To set up, sit on a bench and hang your arm down so that your elbow is just underneath your thigh. Start with your arm in a neutral position and supinate as you curl the weight up. Focus on trying to make your pinky touch your shoulder. Although you won't actually manage, this cue will force you to supinate even further. It's important that you keep your elbow fixed throughout the entire movement and avoid any ego lifting. Remember, we're focusing on the quality of the contraction, so if you need to decrease the weight a bit, do so. Broken wrist curl. The broken wrist curl is a great variation for helping to establish a great mind-muscle connection with the biceps. Due to the break in the wrist flexors become less active, thus shifting more tension onto the biceps. This exercise can be performed with a dumbbell, but I prefer the kettlebell variation as it allows the weight to remain parallel to the floor throughout the movement. The key here is to keep the wrist broken throughout the movement to ensure we're placing the majority of the stress on the biceps. Dumbbell close grip slider curl. Next up is the close grip slider curl. If you haven't tried this one before, be prepared for a sick pump. The trick with this exercise is to keep the dumbbell parallel to the floor. This means you'll have to change the angle of your wrist throughout the movement. Perform these with a slow concentric of about 3 to 4 seconds to help keep bicep activation at its highest. The last thing with this exercise is to train in low rep ranges. For best results, aim for 6 to 8 reps per set. Accentuated eccentric curls. Lastly, we have the accentuated eccentric curl. Like I mentioned before, slowing down the tempo of an exercise will help to achieve a better mind-muscle connection. With accentuated eccentric curls, it's okay to actually cheat the concentric portion of the lift, as our focus here is to overload the negative. Not only is this where most muscle damage occurs, but your muscles are roughly 20% stronger during the eccentric, which is why we want to load these exercises a bit more. We have plenty of research showing big benefits to a mix of both concentric and eccentric training, making this exercise essential if you want to maximize muscle growth. When performing this exercise, cheat the weight up a bit for a 1-second concentric and then aim for 3 to 4 seconds on the negative. There you have it, 5 biceps exercises you'll really feel. Add these to your workout and experience a pump like never before while also adding variety to your training. Is there a biceps exercise you would add to this list? Let me know in the comments section below and I'll give it a shot. Did you find this video helpful? If so, click the like button below as it'll truly help out the channel. Also, if you're looking for free workouts, meal examples, forum videos, and more, make sure to follow me at Muscle Monsters on Instagram, where I post daily. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe for more videos and don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next one. Peace.